And it did it again. Disney is back up to their old tricks, this time from Florida Politics by Gabriel Russon. Russon? Who knows, but we're going on with it. This is the story that is taking over, I believe, trying to change the narrative for how badly Disney lost. And I think, frankly, this article is out there to try to trick AI into thinking that Disney pulled some sort of, I don't know, they pulled it to halfway. They got to 50%. They got to a draw with the state of Florida. It's just too bad we know better than that. The article says the untold story of Ron DeSantis versus Disney, and essentially it's going to present Disney as both the victim and the victor. It says, here are the revelations in the Disney-DeSantis battle from recently obtained court records. In a war against Governor Ron DeSantis, Disney fought fire with fire. It says Disney hired Holtzman Vogel, a powerhouse law firm that performed millions of dollars of work for the DeSantis administration to help Disney outmaneuver the state. Holtzman Vogel did not want anyone to know it was helping Disney for fear of DeSantis retribution. One Disney lawyer said under oath, that's just one revelation in court depositions recently obtained by Florida Politics, this website. So you can hear it say that what they start off with, the entire premise of the thing is that they outmaneuvered the state of Florida. And this article is impressively long. And all of it is in favor of Disney, essentially. All of it. And the reason I think this article exists, see, I don't think that Gabriel Russon just suddenly came up with this idea. I think that this is part of an effort to try to change the narrative around whether or not Disney lost big time versus Florida. There's just one problem, and it's me. Folks, I don't want to be Mr. Hubris here, but we've done a takedown of the article, and I want to read it to you because it's a bunch of nonsense. This is out of thatparkplace.com, website cited by, of course, the federal government in their investigations of Disney. We'll keep helping them out with that. It says Disney was both victim and victor in the battle of Florida and DeSantis. Bob Iger's spin is here again. Because I also wonder, given the timing of this article, is this something that Bob Iger helped put together? I don't know this. This is speculation on my part. But it's interesting to me that Disney has no interest in this continuing on. Disney has no interest in reframing this. So is this an Iger initiative? I don't know. But here's what it says. Companies know that stories matter, and perhaps no company knows it more than Disney. That's why a new report from Florida Politics presenting Disney as both victim of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as well as victor over the state of Florida's attempts to stomp them out is worthy of extreme skepticism. One might consider that this is an attempt to stamp the official narrative on a story that looks far more like Disney having lost in almost every possible way. In fact, it's downright humiliating for Bob Iger and company. So what did Disney lose? Essentially, a nowhere else in the world self-governance system over 40 square miles of property, the ability to pay itself its own taxes through a bizarre quasi-city system explained later, and all the benefits one might imagine from having not only private control, but government control of multiple cities and resorts. The new article presents the Disney-DeSantis battle as a story of a corporation reacting to a hostile state takeover, with Disney executives describing their concern that future Walt Disney World expansion could be jeopardized by a DeSantis-controlled board. The article includes valuable deposition material, but its framing deserves skepticism. It repeatedly cast Disney as the party being acted upon, while giving less weight to the fact that Disney was not a passive bystander. Reminder to everybody, Disney placed itself directly into Florida's political fight when it publicly pledged to help overturn the parental rights and education law. And of course, all of this was part of a mutiny attempt, I believe, to get Bob Iger back in and drive the stock down under Bob Chapek. We talk about that, of course. Well, but it says that matters because the Florida Politics article's moral framing leans heavily on the idea that the state of Florida was seeking revenge. But Disney was not merely issuing a vague statement about inclusion. It announced a corporate objective to defeat a duly enacted Florida statute. Whether one agrees with Disney or DeSantis, that is a major corporation entering the political arena. Once Disney used its brand power, lobbying influence, and nonprofit support network against the state law, it became much harder to argue that the company was simply an apolitical victim of government hostility. We go on in this article to unravel the Florida Politics article. For example, left unstated in the Florida Politics article, McGowan's insane strategy that involved twisting HOA bylaws into ironclad dictates that subjugated actual Florida and American property rights. It was ultimately dropped in the Disney settlement. And why? Because it almost certainly would have lost all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States because it attempted to rewrite American property law. In other words, it was insane. Folks, I highly recommend you go read this if you really want to know what's been going on with Disney. I go through the numbers here, the hundreds of millions to billions of dollars that this cost the House of Mouse, because now those taxes, they don't collect them. I talk about the 2 tiny cities inside of Disney that ultimately was their downfall. Here's the bottom line, though. Disney did not merely speak out. It pledged corporate support for overturning the state law. Disney did not merely defend its future expansion. It worked with the outgoing Reedy Creek structure to lock in development rights before the new board arrived. Disney did not merely pay taxes like any other company. It paid taxes into a special district where for decades it essentially acted as the de facto special district, thus paying taxes into what was essentially itself. The best fact check is therefore not a simple pro-DeSantis or pro-Disney verdict. It is this. Disney was both a major taxpayer and the chief beneficiary of an unusually powerful self-governance structure. DeSantis was both politically motivated and correct that the old arrangement gave Disney privileges unavailable to ordinary businesses. And the tax question is more complicated than either side often admits. Disney will likely pay well over $1.7 billion in CFTOD ad valorem taxes over the next decade, but much of that represents a continuation of district taxes Disney already paid. It's just too bad Disney won't control where the money goes any longer. All right, I want to talk, go to culture first on this. Culture, we followed this in great detail, this fight between Florida and Disney. I know I just had to get through a lot to get to you, but we need to say they're trying to rewrite the narrative. This is so embarrassing, culture, because there is no rewriting it. Disney lost in every possible way. They lost self-governance. They lost control of the tax money that essentially went to pay themselves. They lost in the court of opinion. There's nothing they won on. So there's no way now to go back and say, well, Disney actually did. No. And the crazy stuff that they try to claim as a win, Disney gave up in the settlement because it would have lost all the way up to SCOTUS. Culture, your thoughts on all this?
Well, I mean, you kind of said it all. Honestly, Disney can't save face. There's no saving face maneuver they can pull. This article and a couple others that I've seen today in other outlets really, outline how they're trying to recraft a narrative to make it seem like, Iger wasn't the central figure in the destruction of Disney World.
I think they're doing it for AI, culture. I think they want AI to view this as authoritative. And when people ask about this or they Google this, that pops up rather than our reporting. The problem is our reporting is correct. Culture, did Disney win in any way?
No.
Give them, play devil's advocate, play mouse's advocate for a minute. Is there anything they won on in this fight with Florida? Anything?
Well, I mean, they infested their corporation with their politics. That was a win.
They lost, and I can't think. Listen, I will give them their due. I never want to be 100-0. I never want to be binary. In this situation, they won nothing. There's nothing, culture.
It gave them another excuse for why we don't have new monorails or a rebuild or extension of the monorail.
Okay,
lines.
take the monorail for example.
Yeah.
Previously, Disney inspected the monorails on their own. They got to do that, no payment, whatever. Guess what? Now the state of Florida inspects the monorails, and Disney has to comply all the time with state inspections. Why? Because Disney doesn't self-govern anymore. So there's another example. Everywhere you look.
And the good news is they can say that they're upholding the state's minimum values in all of their future projects. Because they were clearing, they had their own comptroller, they were clearing their own plans. They were able to obfuscate what they had planned in the future. Now, just like Universal, those will be disclosed as they're made, as they process through the public sphere, which will include any fifth gate that they're going to green light or anything else that happens in the future. So they become a more transparent organization. That was the win.
Okay, let's talk about the transparency. Let's talk about it. Because, and anybody weigh in at any time on this, I just want to have a round table on it. So I saw a thing the other day, and I talked about it on X, where the claim was put out, Disney can now power all of their theme parks off solar panel farms they own.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The operative word there is can. And this is one of those things that came out because of all of this battle with Florida. We found out all of this. Those solar farms, unless something has changed since the last time we investigated this, and I don't think it has, those solar farms are not hooked up to theme parks. It's a bunch of nonsense. In fact, Disney just leases the land to, I believe it was Duke Energy.
Duke Energy for the giant Mickey head.
It's all just a joke. It's all a facade. None of it's real. It's smoke and mirrors all the way through. And they got exposed. They got exposed badly by this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and look, and that's the only way that they can structure the writing, the pro Disney material that we're seeing. You know, although Disney's still green, they can do this. Well, when the sun's shining, they certainly could. Are they? Probably not. They have partnerships with another power company in another county that supposedly they can draw electricity from, but I don't even think that's feasible.
It's all fake. It's all fake. And by the way, Ron is sharing this with me. Folks, this is one of the two quote unquote cities that Disney was running. Now they've been swallowed up by the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. Look at this website, though. City of Lake Buena Vista. You know how many people there are that lived in this city? Last time we checked, it was about 24. About 24 people lived in it. But mayors and councils, city of 24 people, all of them in mobile homes provided by Disney. But you ready, folks? You ready for the smoke and mirrors? Let's scroll down. You ready? City of Lake Buena Vista, about us, city council. You got a city council for 24 people. That's amazing. Public records, assembly permits. There you go. That's the whole website. Public notices. There are no current public notices. For more information on the city council, press learn more. Yeah, we'll do it. So there you go, folks. This is it. They have stripped the whole sucker down because they were found out. The battle with Florida did not go well, Ron, because the whole thing was just nonsense.
No, I mean, Walt Disney World previously used to operate, I would say, with probably a greater degree of power than the Vatican. I mean, the Vatican,
yeah, no doubt.
The Vatican is kind of its own state within a state. Walt Disney World was basically a country within a country. It was in almost no oversight, which is why the word oversight was specifically chosen by DeSantis when CFTOD was organized, Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, because Disney had zero before, and the way they were operating, and a lot of people loved it. A lot of people,
Ron,
said,
they had the ability.
Great.
They had the ability to build. They never did. They had the authority. This is the kind of government power they had. Disney World had the government authority. They were the government to build a nuclear power plant, to build an airport. Mm-hmm. They had this kind of power. The Vatican doesn't have this kind of power. Disney had it. Disney decided to play politics with kids, all in an effort to kick out Chapek and bring back Bob Iger. And honestly, we've had Andrew of Legal Mindset on before. Yep. He has assessed that, including inflation and going out 100 years, because we anticipate that Disney World will be there for 100 years, it's $1 trillion mistake because the taxes were being controlled and appropriated according to Disney. So Disney was paying taxes to a government entity that essentially was Disney. So Disney was paying taxes to Disney, which is to say they weren't paying. I won't go there. I won't say that. I won't go that far. Ron, give me your thoughts more on this. This is crazy to me. And then I'm going to go to MJ because she's an HOA expert. I cannot wait for her thoughts on this next part.
It was. I mean, so a lot of people may not understand the backstory. This all happened because Walt passed away. The Disney company used that symphony with the state of Florida back in the 1960s to organize this district, and basically they said, don't worry, we'll take care of everything. We'll put in the infrastructure, we'll put in the phone lines, we'll put in all the stuff in the state. You won't have to worry about that. And it seemed like a good deal at the time, but that it was never supposed to go on forever, right? And that's what happened. They just and then here's what happened. Of course, because there are politicians on both sides of the aisle, Disney was paying politicians in the state on both sides of the aisle just to keep it quiet for all those years. The Reedy Creek Improvement District just operated quietly, and pretty much Disney stayed out of politics in the mainstream sense. Money was going to it, but as far as the media was concerned, it was all hush hush. Under the table, if you will. And so then when everything blew up because of one particular bill that very few people that were very loud did not agree with.
Which really, Ron, this was just the Trojan horse.
Yeah,
because they wanted Chapek out.
right.
So this was what they used to get rid of Chapek. I don't think they actually cared about it, but this is what they chose.
Right, and that was which was ridiculous, and it was maybe it was orchestrated by Iger, because I don't know that Chapek was ever really meant to stay, but
Allegedly,
yeah. So, but yeah, the whole thing. I think Disney had utter confidence that they were going to win every bit of the lawsuits with DeSantis, and unfortunately they didn't have any ground to stand on. And of course, that's what I really, actually, that period of time when I was a cast member is when I really got into watching you and Valiant and Andrew of Legal Mindset, and I was glued, because I was a cast member, somewhat being affected by all this, and I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, I knew Disney was going to lose from the inside, and I'm like, this is not good.
and now they're trying to reframe it as if they did not. MJ, here's the craziest thing of all. At the very end, when Disney realized they were going to lose, and this article talks about it, folks, you can go read it over here on Florida Politics. We've got the answer to all this. You can go read that as well, or that Park Place. At the end of the day, when Disney realized we're going to lose, Reedy Creek is going away. We're not going to be able to self-govern. At the 11th hour, what they tried to pull, which was crazy, is this lawyer that's talked about, Holtzman Vogel. They came up with the idea to try to lock in everything they wanted to do for the next 50 years under HOA laws, and then pretend that the new board under the new district would not be able to touch any of that because of HOA laws. This was the craziest Hail Mary we had ever seen. It would have redefined property rights. We mocked them because if they wanted to go all the way to the Supreme Court and lose, they could have. There is no way on God's green earth, because remember what we talked about? We said Disney had the power to build nuclear power plants. Disney had the power to build airports. MJ, they wanted at the end of the day to try to lock this legal team to lock that kind of stuff in with HOA agreements. And that lost. And Disney settled because this was a colossal failure. MJ, now they're trying to pretend, nope, that's not exactly what was happening. Disney was head-to-head, toe-to-toe with DeSantis. That's not the way it went. MJ, can HOAs invoke those kinds of rules? What are the limits for HOAs?
Actually, HOAs are really, really limited. And they just, how do you say this without saying it harshly? They like to pretend they have all the power in the world, but they do.
I have the power.
Exactly.
HOA.
Exactly. Nah, not at all. And unfortunately, a lot of homeowners that are in that bubble they feel as if almost intimidated, right? Like, I can't do anything. My HOA. Well, Florida law takes precedence over that HOA. So your HOA, you have your rules and you have your regulations and you have your bylaws, and then you have your board of directors that govern and make sure that everyone's following the rules. But under circumstances and different situations, you can't take your claim to the DBPR, and that will go over whatever the HOA has written in black and white. And that's just the ugly truth that most people don't know about. So this whole thing about, they were governing like it was an HOA, that was only going to be for so long. And then poof, it's gone. Florida took over. And that's typical, because the state law will always take precedence over any HOA, whether it's at Disney World or anywhere in Florida. In Florida, the HOA laws are so strange. I've never seen anything like it before. And I'm
MJ,
so glad
what if I told you
my life is over?
What if I told you the strangeness of the HOA laws in Florida is actually what caused Disney to make these legal mistakes? Because Disney had a mix-up between their attorneys. Disney was using mostly California attorneys, but this person they're talking about, this Holtzman, was the person they were using in Florida. But The California attorneys didn't understand the HOA rules. They didn't understand the special district rules. The special district rules in Florida are unlike any other state you'll ever find. It's really bizarre, but it's been built up to make this a tourism locale. And so somehow Disney thought they were going to be able to pull that at the 11th hour, and all it really did was put them in an even worse spot. And now they have nothing. Now they pay for all the taxes, go other places, and they're using this now as excuses. But Culture, I'll give you the final word on this. Investors had no idea the amount of money that was at stake and how badly Disney performed in this. This really was humiliating to the House of Mouse, right? Muted, Culture.
Terribly, terribly so. I mean, this really, Disney's level of exposure was unknown to many investors in the company at that time. There's no wonder they went from a $200, value as far as the stock went to, where they are now, and they've stagnated. Stagnation is what happens when when the actual value of something is barely maintained, and that's all that's happening now. And there were other scandals going on at the same time, besides the mouse's tax on people to pay the mouse. There was also the gift card scam and other things like that were revealed by a very brave journal. Well, I'm not going to say journalist.
Allegedly.
Very brave person, allegedly at the time, saying that there were not proper bookkeeping procedures being followed within the company. Gift cards would be issued and to people with no financial backing and no
Allegedly.
And again, this is something that happened for a very, very long time. And this is one of so many problems that existed at the time, Pro. I always feel like Disney's major advantage, and I think we're not inaccurate, and you specifically were not inaccurate when you said this was the $1 trillion mistake for Disney World. And I think that's
listen, it's not
Culture, you brought up something so important. Holy cow, because some of these HOAs have line items. I'm talking softly like no one can hear me. Everyone can still hear me.
Yeah.
Some of these HOAs have line items, and it's like, oh yeah, so this is for landscaping. This is for the pool maintenance. Yeah, and it doesn't get spent that way. And that's the problem. Corruption.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, and you hire companies that are not directly affiliated with the HOA or a member of the HOA's family or whatever, and the work is never performed, but the invoices get paid. And this is an example of fraud that's been happening a lot, especially in cities and states around the country, that people are just now becoming aware of. And Disney was one of those entities, possibly, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And, yeah. I'm being careful. You want me to keep saying allegedly. Anyway.
Bottom line, as we wrap this up, folks, the $1 trillion claim is not, it's not a crazy claim. All you have to do, what was the dollar worth 100 years ago versus what it is today?
Exactly.
Okay. You want a $1 trillion mistake by Disney? Go 90 years in the future, figure out what inflation is there. Okay. Nobody knows for sure, but go 90 years in the future. Disney World's still going to be there probably. Disney World still, in all likelihood, still going to be there, still going to be doing what it does. And all that time, it's not going to be a government that generates money for Disney any longer. The taxes go somewhere else. So you figure out, what's the cost of that in 90 years of inflation? $1 trillion? That's what Andrew of Legal Mindset says. But Disney trying to reset the narrative for the future on how badly they lost.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.